Thank you for coming. My name is Michelle, for those of you that I have not met. This is one of the personal favorites of mine that we do every year or so, and it's our internal dish directors panel. So I have had the pleasure of working with all of the women on the panel today, and I'm sure that you're going to learn a ton from them. We're going to be talking about career path at Dish and how they view leadership and how they manage their teams. So we do have a list of questions, but we want to keep this a little more conversational. That's why we do a little smaller format for these. So please certainly feel free to jump in as we go. And we're also going to ask the panelists to help probe each other on their leadership styles as well. So with that, I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you, and hopefully you will get to work with them in your time here, similar to me. So with that, we'll get started, ladies. Why don't, Dana, do you want to start?
Okay. My name's Dana McLeod. I work in finance here at Dish, and I support the programming team, media sales, and Sling TV. I went to school at Colorado College, which is down in Colorado Springs. Clearly, no Colorado College grads here. It's a small school, so it's rare to meet other people. I actually, after school, spent 8 years in California and then went to business school in Chicago, and it was after business school that I came back to Dish. So may have said this already, but I've been here about 5 years.
I'm Colleen Sugarman. I head up marketing for Sling. I've been at Dish 3 years. So a little bit about me. I went to an even smaller school. It's called Davis & Elkins College in West Virginia. It's a small liberal arts college. And I double majored in marketing and management. I've had a super fun career. I love marketing. So I spent time at an agency for about 10 years and then decided I wanted to get on the client side. So I worked for great brands, and I feel like I've been so fortunate. So I was at America Online for 9 years. I worked for Vonage. I helped take the company public. Got the ranker. I sold Proactive. Before coming to Dish, I was chief marketing officer at Healthy Directions, which was a vitamin and supplement company, where I was brought in by the board to actually sell my first company. So that was super fun. I love disruptive industries like Dish. When I got the call, hey, we come out and help us launch Sling, I was like, sign me up. And I've just really enjoyed my experience here.
Great. Hi, I'm Sara Grabowski. I'm in billing and credit. My career path is a little different. I've been with Dish for 19 years. So I started here right out of high school, actually, in the call center, taking calls in our Thornton site. And you name it, I have probably done it in some form or another within the call center world, and then transitioned to corporate in 2006 and did a regional training manager, all kinds of different stuff from a corporate capacity, and then transferred to billing and credit originally in 2007. Left billing and credit for 2 years to go to IHS and start up our PMO there, and then came back to billing and credit just over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago maybe, as the director of the group. Throughout that time, obviously I came right out of high school. College was not the thing for me right away. It just wasn't something I saw myself doing. So I waited until I was ready, and I did. I went to undergrad and grad school at DU, all while working full-time here. So I've done a lot of stuff here. I love working here, to be honest. I get to do all kinds of different things, and I still learn something new every single day that I'm in this building, which is pretty exciting for me.
Hi, my name is Kristin Arnold. I'm kind of the opposite story of Sara. I've also been here almost 18 years at the end of this month, but I've been in the same group almost the whole time. I started my career in accounting. I guess I went to CU to get my accounting degree. My very last class in high school was in accounting. It was really a bookkeeping class, but I loved it. I said, that's what I'm going to do. You know, nice to find it, your very last class in high school, but that's what I wanted to start doing. And right out of school, I started working at a bank, and that unfortunately closed, not because I was a bad accountant, but we had a crooked investment advisor. After that, I actually moved to Brazil. I was married and moved to Brazil, and there I taught English, so it's kind of a very deviation from accounting. Came back from Brazil and worked at Prime Star, which was this industry, of course, and then they were sold to DirecTV, and the accounting group was moving to California, didn't want to do that. Then I went to Orion Auto, was an insurance company. They were also sold, moving out of state. So I happened on the way home. I live very far west of here, so on the way home, I stopped and saw that Dish was having, well, it was EchoStar at the time, job fair at the Riverfront location. So I stopped in, took a chance, and I've been here since then. And like I said, I've been in the same group. I manage, well, I'm a director now for it's called a GL accounting group. We basically just make sure that our Dish's financial statements are correct, that we're recording things according to GAAP so that Dish can continue to be a publicly traded company.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yes. And I think part of the question was what you do outside of work. I am a bird watcher. I read books. I like to travel a lot. So that's kind of me outside of work.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dorothy Kelly. I'm with Dish Technologies. I've been here with Dish 2 years today.
Congrats.
And yeah, I'm a veteran now. I've been on the technology side of the business all my life. So I think all of you have Jabber. So I worked on the Jabber launch a long time ago. So I come from the cable side of the business, but always have been on the new technology sides of companies. So I've been with a lot of different companies. Many that have been owned by John Malone, just kind of hopped from one John Malone startup to another for quite a while in my career. Then joined EchoStar in the marketing role, taking care of the launch of Sling Studio and Air TV. Hooray, go Air TV. And I'm from New York State originally, went to undergrad in New York, grad Miami of Ohio, but I was not a business major and came into marketing a little unusually. My major in grad school was speech writing, and I wanted to work at the White House and write speeches. So I am very politically involved still. However, when I finished graduate school, I realized it was made business look tame. It is so political when that whole side of the business and speech writing and politics, et cetera. So I saw enough in my graduate program and decided, you know what, I'm going to move back to New York and just go into business. So that's what I did and got into marketing. And I've loved it ever since. And similar to everyone else on the panel, there has never been a slow or boring day since the minute I walked in the door. Yeah, so I would say I think Dish is what you make of it. There is tons of opportunity. I think if you ask a lot of questions and are a driver and you go after it, you can have a really fulfilling career. If you sit back and wait for it to happen, it's not going to happen for you.
So we all heard about kind of what you guys do, how you got here. Can you talk to us about the teams that you lead and what they do within the business?
We're starting here again.
We'll start with Dorothy this time.
So I lead a marketing and creative team, and we support, like I said, both Sling Studio and Air TV. So we've launched both of those products since I got here, so it's been pretty busy. We work a lot. I think that's similar with a lot of people at Dish. It's been really fun to launch consumer products, especially a consumer video product like Sling Studio. I think one of the challenges is at Dish, we are extremely budget conscious, and you have to accomplish a lot in an extremely competitive place from a consumer standpoint. So you're vying against inordinately large advertising and media budgets, and Sling Studio and Air TV are both run like a startup. So we run really lean, both from a staffing standpoint and a budgetary and marketing spend standpoint. So we have to do everything. We do the marketing, we do the creative, we do the branding, we do the digital, we do it all. So we're a small group, and just making sure that you, as a leader, understand what are all the nuances on your team, where is the talent, where do they want to grow, and making sure that in order to get all that work done, everybody has to juggle a lot of balls and carry a lot of different types of projects. And sometimes you're hiring someone, and then 3 months later, you're asking them to do things that's not their background at all. So making sure you are strategically giving them where are we trying to go and why, and then pulling them in and saying, listen, you can do this. This is how we're going to do it. This is why we're going to do it. And then engaging them so they feel that they can take that risk, but that also they can tackle that project even if it's not their background. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
So my team, as I mentioned, we do the financial accounting, We do financial analysis. I have a team of 15 people under me. I'm very lucky to have 4 tenured managers under me, so they help support the team's growth. And what we do on a monthly basis, I mean, our team is bread and butter month-end close. So you probably hear month-end close. So once a month, we are here late working, closing the books, the financial books. On my team specifically, there are 2 GL teams really in accounting. Mine does the subscriber revenue. So we work a lot with reporting from CSG, reporting from Recurly for Sling, ad sales revenues. We record a lot of the revenues. So we record and analyze and just make sure that everything looks reasonable on a monthly basis. We also on the team do the accounting for call centers and the marketing group. Let's see, programming COGS. We pay our programmers a couple months after like the current recognizing period, so we have to record those. We have to be in front of all those contracts. We read a lot of contracts. We have to understand what's going on in the business, what anything new is launching, so that we can account for it properly on the team. Is that the question? Anything more?
Sarah.
All right. So something about me is one of my favorite things to do is to talk about my team and what they do. My least favorite thing to do is talk about myself. So this will be a nice little break. I can talk about them a little bit. Billing and credit, a lot of people have heard of us, but I think it's a bit of a mystery in what we do, and sometimes even to ourselves. We're a pretty broad group, and we do a lot of different things. So I've heard there's 90 of us in billing and credit, and of which about 70 of them roll up to me, as well as about 60 people offshore. So within that group, we're really responsible operationally. We work very closely with accounting and a bunch of other groups, but operationally we're responsible for really every dollar that comes in from a customer. So we manage all the front end payment options. We manage all the payments coming in. We help with reconciliation every single day in terms of what's in our bank account compared to what CSG says we post. Obviously, we have billing in our title, so we do manage the bill and what it looks like, trying to get customers on e-bill, spending or saving money within our billing expenses, as well as billing systems. We now have 4 of them that we're using, whereas a year and a half ago or 2, we maybe had 1. So our world is changing quite a bit and getting more and more complex. On top of that, we really manage all the financial transactions from a front-end customer view, from once they activate until their account is disconnected and at a 0 balance. So I've got vendors coming out of my ears to help collect money when customers are in collections, plus all the payment people, Visa, MasterCard, all those guys. We work with all those guys all the time. We have some other random groups. I have an IHS, what I call an IHS support team, and they pay all of our RSPs and subs for the work that they do on our behalf, as well as we manage damage claims from customers. So we do directly interface with customers in some capacity. And then I have some support teams within my group to do training and project management, as well as quality assurance. We do a lot of manual work. We have about 600 manual tasks that we do across all of my teams. And so we have to have some layer of quality to make sure we're doing that right. So I have a team that does that as well. And then the other big component is because we do so many different things, we're really involved in every single project that happens within this company. There's not a single thing I think I can recall that we haven't been involved in some capacity, because we generally have to collect money from a customer. So we kind of come into play. And that means we also are a bit of a revenue assurance from a front end. So for every IT release, we have a long list of things that we have to audit and make sure that what was intended to go in production actually did. So we have people here at 6 and 7 in the morning until as late as we need to be, sometimes earlier or longer, making sure that if X code was supposed to be on the account and does X thing, that it actually did in production. So we're pretty heavily involved in just about everything. The great thing about billing and credit is if you want to learn the foundation of our company, you get to learn it. There's not a piece, again, that we don't touch, so you can learn really a piece of every single thing that we do. And it creates a good foundation either to stay and grow within our company or in our department, or we send a lot of people out of billing and credit. So there are billing and credit folks sitting in every department across the organization, which is really exciting for those of us that have been in the group for so long to see that kind of growth. But we're a busy group, just like everybody. I mean, I say that, and I know everybody's busy all the time because that's just the way we roll. I feel like we run as a startup too, even though we're pretty established. But we're supporting DBS, we're supporting Sling, we're supporting wireless, we're supporting everything. So And we come in every single day and we kind of really own the adventure of it and see what is on our plate for that day and then keep going. So that was great. My team is amazing, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because there are a handful of them in the room, but it's true. And they work extremely hard, and I get to learn again from them every single day. So
Wonderful. Colleen.
So Sling Marketing, my team, who I also love and adore, and the reason I come to work every day, they're super talented. We're responsible for the general market or the domestic market, as well as the Latino market. International falls under Isabella. So we do everything from brand strategy, brand management, creative. We have the team set up around what we call acquisition, retention, and monetization. So in the area of acquisition, we're focused on investing dollars in broadcast television, digital, mobile, social, email. Those are kind of our primary investments, as well as a big area of focus for us is what we call indirect or partner management. So working to leverage retail partnerships like Best Buy and Walmart and Vox, and then all of our device partnerships with Roku, Amazon, Xbox. So how do we leverage their eyeballs to generate acquisition or new subscribers for Sling? And then retention, we're obviously focused on trying to, once we have a subscriber, get the consumer engaged with the Sling app, viewing television, and then also in that area, what we call monetization. How do we get more revenue per user? So we do things like upselling DVR, upselling Sports Extra. That's for Sling, where we make the margin is really around extras and DVR, less on our base packs. So yeah, super busy like everybody else. I have a team of 70, yeah, it's fun. I love to come to work every day.
And you just launched a new campaign.
We just launched a new campaign, so you guys saw that. So we're in the midst of March Madness, so a lot of exciting things happening for Sling.
Cool. Dana.
So I have 3 teams. One team supports Sling, and we pretty much do all of the FP&A activities for the Sling organization. So financial planning and analysis. We'll do ad hoc analysis. Does it make sense to do certain promotions or things like that? We do the budgeting and the variance analysis. And my team really does that for all 3. So we're like mini FP&A orgs for the 3 departments we support, which Sling is one. The other is the programming department, all of the content negotiations. We will help get involved in the deals and figure out what does this cost us when the 2 sides are making offers back and forth. How does the financial impact of that run through the company overall? And then we do budgeting and variance analysis also on the programming cost side. And then finally, I have the media sales team as well. So the 3 orgs I support are also the 3 orgs that roll up through Warren Schlichting. So in some ways, although I officially report through Steve Swain, my whole team kind of has a dotted line through Warren as well.
And she's 2 doors down from me, so
Yep.
we
Work
kind of
closely
monopolize her time.
I work closely with Colleen. I work very closely with Kristin as well. I mean, it's great. I love my team too. We work hard. I think what I always try to have my team push for is, are we doing work that's actually helping the business improve and get better, rather than just looking backwards and saying, here's what happened. Kristin looks backwards and says, here's what happened. But it's been exciting, and I think most people on my team would say that every day is a challenge. It's come up a couple times. You're always learning something new. And that's why I think most people stay at Dish. You're given a lot of responsibility. You get to work on cool stuff, and you actually can move the business, which is, for a company this size, I think, quite unique.
Yeah. So each of you guys mentioned loving your teams. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you look at what talent you have, how you're leveraging that, and how, as a leader here, you really look at talent planning and building the future business? We can start with Sarah.
I was going to say, let's start in the middle this
Yes.
time. I feel like I'm always in the middle. I'll just go first. So in terms of talent management, obviously it's something that, I mean, as a whole organization, we're very focused on. But within my approaches, well, a couple of things. Well, I'll tell you this: the things that I care about when I'm looking at talent within my team really is someone willing to take risks. Will someone do things without being asked to do them, right? To look at something and say, these are my 5 things, however, I think this influences this, and even though it's not in my scope, I'm gonna go look at that as well. Like, I think that's extremely important. And I've had that experience in every role that I've had at Dish. If you're just doing your 5 things you're responsible for, you're probably not gonna be successful here long term. But for me, it's really important. I mean, especially with, I think all of our teams are probably the same, but I say within my team just because we're all overlapped a bit in the teams that I have, and so you can't just focus in your own little area. You have to be a little bit more broad thinking. And then really it's, are you willing to be uncomfortable being uncomfortable and making mistakes, right? I actually think it's really important to make mistakes, and I say that, and a lot of people would probably laugh at me because I hate making mistakes. Like, every time I do, I'm super hard on myself, and I always try to think about it. But the idea is, can you make a mistake even if it's very severe? And I have. Like, I'm quite honestly, I'm surprised I haven't been fired on a handful of occasions because I've made some pretty dramatic mistakes. But you know, I think the key is how do you recover from them, and you learn from it and you move on, and then you don't do it again. So I think if people do those types of things, and I also love it. Like, for me personally, I have like this little button a past employee gave me that says I love debates. So I love it when someone comes into my office and tries to prove me wrong. I don't know how often that happens, but it does happen quite often, even if I don't admit it. But I love it when people try to challenge things a little bit. So those are the attributes that I look for in a person. I always feel like you can teach certain things, right? If you need to know Excel, you can teach it. If you need to know leadership skills, you can work through that over time. But you have to have like a few key attributes, I think, in order to be successful within this environment. So that's how I look at it. And then I personally, you know, I care about where people want to be, right? Sometimes in the past, we very much force people into positions because we think they're going to be good in those roles, and maybe they didn't really want it. So if someone really wants to be somewhere, we're going to help them try to get there. If they really don't want to be somewhere, I'm probably not going to put them there. But I think it's important to have a conversation with every single employee and understand where they think their strengths are, and then try to leverage that, because no one's going to be happy or productive if they're in a role that they don't like. So I try to help facilitate that within my managers and then down. So for me, it's a very fluid, talent management is a very fluid process because every person is a little different and every person needs a little bit of different style or approach or thing. But I think really, if you can do all those key things that I said before, I'm probably going to look at you pretty highly and then helped you to be successful. Although I will say, I agree with what you said earlier. It's never going to happen to you, right? Nothing happens to you, and you have to do it for yourself. So if you really want to be a manager, then ask what it takes to be a manager, and ask for the opportunity when it comes up, and do it even if you're not ready. I just had that conversation with one of my folks today. Sometimes you just have to jump in the deep end, whether you can swim or not, and eventually you'll figure it out, right? You will survive, hopefully. But I do think that's a very important thing. You got to be willing to do stuff and just do it. So that's my answer.
Does anyone want to chime in?
I agree with a lot of what Sarah said. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, she pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, you have to be proactive. Nobody cares about your career more than you do. And I think as managers, like, I view it as my job to help people get to where they want to be, but I can't know where you want to get to if you're not going to speak up. So don't ever be afraid to go into your boss's office and be like, this is where I want to get to. How do I get there? Hopefully they have some helpful things to say.
Yeah, and if I could, I'd like to add, because I agree also, is don't be afraid to disagree and to push back. You know, one great thing about being with tons of young people and young talent is you have new innovative ideas and a perspective that many of us don't have. So we really look to you for those fresh ideas, and we look to you to say, you know, the consumers I'm engaged with or the segment you're going after, I completely disagree. I don't think we should communicate with them that way. Or why don't we try this? Or let's write our social posts like this. Or your website language is way too formulaic and corporate. Or, you know, it's super helpful to have new ideas and fresh ideas, but it's also really important to have courage within yourself and say, you know, I disagree, and this is why, and lay it out. Like, help your manager understand why you're disagreeing and walk them through the logic, but give yourself the opportunity to have those 5 or 10 minutes in the meeting if you've reflected on something and you have some good ideas, because we can all learn and we can all grow, and we look to everyone to help us grow the company and to push our departments forward.
Great.
Michelle, I have this saying that I use when I'm evaluating talent. I'm looking for, are you a doer and are you a driver, right? And that is, you know, something that I think are both qualities to success. So, you know, are you going to be a doer? I think we're all a doer no matter what level we're at. And then are you a driver of yourself, a driver of your team, you know, driving to win and create results. And I'm with Dana, like, how do we take what we've learned and focus on the go forward? I think as a business, we sometimes have a tendency to do too much looking back. I also have a very young team, one of which I don't fall into that category. I've been in the industry 32 years. I'm young at heart, they tell me. But I was just a grandma for the first time last week. So I'm a young grandma. But I love, to your point, working with the younger talent that super smart, great ideas. How do you have that healthy debate and not just have groupthink? We don't have any of that. And it's just such a good intellectual environment to be in. Because you just generate constant ideas, and being on the Sling side where we have a ton of competition and we need to continue to innovate as a business, I just love that dynamics that Sling encourages here.
Yeah, wonderful.
I would also add, in accounting, we're probably less of the risk-taking, but
That's good. That's fair.
Right. But we do encourage innovation in our processes, and we're always trying to make things more efficient on our team, in our teams. So we do encourage anyone, you know, who has the ideas to make something better, like you said, you know, speak up and bring that idea. Love to hear those. Taking initiative, also to echo what everyone has said. It's super important to get yourself going forward. No one is going to hand you a checklist of do these 5 things and you'll be promoted. You know, you have to work for them. I would say be observant, learn more than just your role, as Sarah you know, commented on. On my team, I'm lucky we have probably 3 generations. I don't know the exact definitions of the Gen Y and Gen X and all those, but we have, you know, folks who are close to retirement. We have folks that are in the middle of their careers, and then we have a lot of young folks too that are just starting their careers. So I think it's important for a team, like a cohesive team, that we embrace all those different backgrounds from everybody and the perspectives that young people bring in, but also the experience that, you know, some of the older folks have on my team. They've got some more teachers, and we've also got different nationalities on my team. That also brings great perspective to these processes. And you know, as far as talent management, we always try to export our staff accountants to different parts of the business. It's a win-win for them and for us, because then we have that contact in another part of the business. And we've done that several times with folks on our team.
I've taken
You're just
several.
Yeah, she's taken a
I've
while.
taken
Planting
several.
spy.
Yeah, there are moles. But we do encourage that. Look outside the department. A lot of accountants, you know, have that accounting background, but they can work in other areas of the business too very well.
So I think this kind of helps pivot the conversation. We're hearing a lot about diversity and thinking and the ways that can help benefit the business groups. How do you guys look at building inclusive teams, and does that play a role in the kind of environment that you're looking to build on your teams?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, my team is not the most diverse, and I would love it to be more diverse. How I get there, I'm open to suggestions. I think, you know, this is a group of women. We need more women in finance, and like, if you have any interest, come talk to me, and I mean, don't feel like, oh, finance numbers. You can learn numbers. But in terms of inclusiveness, like, I have 3 very distinct teams, but I try to do things so that they interact with each other, understand what the other groups are working on so that they can leverage work that somebody else is doing, and try to kind of build a feeling that they actually are all a team, even though they work on generally fairly different items, which I think makes us better and stronger, and also gives people more enjoyment when they're at work. Like, hey, I like the people I work with, so it's you just get more out of your job, and you spend a lot of time there, so that's important.
I would say my team is quite diverse in a number of ways. I have about 10 total teams under me, and some of them are teams of 1. So it's a really just kind of a interesting group, and then some of them are teams of 20, right? The teams vary a little bit, and everybody offers a different kind of skill. We have all different kinds of backgrounds, and from all different kinds of places. So we do have a fairly diverse group, and I have noticed we're an area I would like to focus on a little bit more, and we've tried as a leadership team, but I'm not sure we're there yet, I'll give you a quick example. I have a finance team, right, and they manage all of my budgets. And then I have an operations team that's for each of those budgets that's responsible for the strategy around that budget. All of those teams should be like, if you're bad debt, which is a bad example because we do nothing but talk about bad debt. But let's say you're my payments budget should be every single day talking to my payments team to understand what's happening on that side of the business. And we're not very good at that today. And even when the team was fully staffed, we weren't very good at that, as Jean is looking at me. She's on that team. So I think we need to be better about working within my teams, across functionally a little bit. The way I structure teams, so I'm a super direct person, a little feisty at times, some would say, and very kind of structured, and I'm a linear thinker, right? You start here and then you go steps 1 through 100. That's just kind of my approach. And I go out of my way to try to hire people that are a little bit different from me, because I don't know everything, and I want every person to add a little bit. So I need people that are what I call the fluffier side, right? That add that kind of softness and approach to, balance some of us out, right? So we're probably lean a little heavy on my type of personality in our group, but I do think it's important to have a good balance within skills and personality. It's an important thing. Otherwise, again, you do get that group think, right? If everyone has the same approach, then you're always kind of going in one direction. So you have to layer in different perspectives, different backgrounds, and everything else in order to keep you thinking a little bit more broadly. So I think my team actually is fairly diverse, and each team has their own unique personality. I have to adjust myself every time I walk into a room. I don't even know how to talk to some of these teams because they're quirky. Some teams are quirkier than others, but they're all like super interesting and super fun to work with, but definitely add an interesting dynamic to our lives every single day.
I think inclusiveness is an ongoing opportunity, right? There's social inclusiveness, racial inclusiveness, gender inclusiveness, education inclusiveness. So there's all different types of inclusiveness, and I think it's an ongoing opportunity and or challenge as a manager. So you're trying to make sure that you can hit the strategy, hit the numbers, and get the job done every month that you're hired as a leader to do. Then there are the other pieces of making sure everybody on your team is happy, challenged, communicated with, an opportunity to communicate within. So I think there's all different types of inclusiveness, and it's a daily challenge to keep the team humming, to keep the team happy. Like for us at Dish Technologies, we all just finished our first year with Dish, and we were EchoStar. So as managers, our first challenge was integrating within the greater Dish, right at the management level, getting our teams integrated, keeping the morale up, then still hitting on numbers and getting everything done, but trying to retain all those people who now have to acclimate to a brand new culture. So I think it's and I'm learning it every day. And Deanna Gibson, my manager, and I, we all talk about it regularly. I think we're all trying, and you're not always good at it. Like, there's some days and weeks you hit it out of the ballpark. And then there's some days you could have a team member kind of alluding to something or saying to something, and you're so focused on all your deliverables as a manager that you drop the ball for them. And they view it as you have dropped the ball. And you can lose that person. Like, they can self-select and move on. And I think for many leaders, if someone leaves, you reflect on that. You say, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? Could I have retained that person if I had been a better manager? So like I said, it's an ongoing opportunity, but it's also a challenge, and it's not easy. And there's going to be days you're good at it, and there's days you're not going to be good at it. And like every morning, you kind of pick yourself back up, and you say, okay, I want to be a good leader today. I'm going to try to listen. But I think you also have to let yourself know that you're human, and you just keep trying to keep everybody moving forward in a positive manner.
Yeah. I think for inclusiveness on our team, it's like I said, we do have different age ranges. We have different genders. Obviously, we have my team. It's a smaller team. It's not as big as some of the other teams of the panelists, but we have on a group of 16, we have 10 women and 6 men. And I think we do like team events together just to try to get everybody together, to socialize, to understand each other's, like what they do outside of work too. And that keeps it just keeps the interest in each other going. We also do a lot of cross training on our team because, somebody could be, Peggy's on my team back there, I see her, she does bad debt for my team, but maybe she's done it for 3 years and it's time for somebody else to learn. But by training that other person and trading jobs, so to speak, you get to know the other person's perspective on that job. And I think it also brings the team closer together. I have 4 different managers and they're all working on different things, but the team itself is it's very cohesive. I'm really lucky. I think I have a really close team and they work well together because we try to do that.
We'll do one more and then we'll open it up to the room. What is inspiring you right now, and how do you stay motivated each day? No pressure.
I'll go.
Bird watching.
Bird watching, the crows, they're building nests. I used to consider myself, I always thought of myself as an introvert, and then I read, because I don't like to, like Sarah said, I don't like to talk about myself, or, one of my challenges is public speaking.
You're welcome.
But thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
We don't forget either, but
right. But I think what I learned, and I read one time, and it kind of stuck with me, is that being an introvert or being an extrovert, it's more about where do you get your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I get my energy from people. I could never live on an island. I think I would be bored. So I get my energy and I get my motivation from my team. They're great. And when we are, facing a challenge and we're doing something, and lucky us, we get to do it once a month with month-end close. It's a challenge. It's hard. We're there long hours together, and I get my energy from that, and that's kind of where I get my motivation. I had a friend who worked at Newmont, and she told me that every time she was in SEC reporting, she said every time they filed with the SEC, they would ring a bell. So I was like, that's a great idea. We need to celebrate successes. So now on our team, we kind of call it the new hire hazing, but we make them ring a bell every time we do our month-end close. So I kind of get my motivation from the team. Was there a part B? Okay.
I'll just go because I think my answer is very similar. I am very much motivated by other people, and I have been personally most successful in a leadership role. When I've been in individual contributor roles, I got a little bit stuck because I don't motivate myself very much. If I know someone else is depending on me, I'm much more likely to get something done and keep going. And again, I have all of these people that I get to work with every single day, and they they do challenge me and they push me to be better, and I very much appreciate what they're willing to do and what they're willing to put up with from me, because it can be difficult. So I get a lot of that. I also think outside of just my team and what we all work on together are the things we get to work on. So I mean, we're working on just the craziest projects that we've ever done. I've been here 19 years. She's been here for a long time. I've never seen the variety of things that we're getting to do today between wireless, and we're launching a new billing system process tomorrow for Samsung support. Right? I mean, like, we're just doing all of these crazy things that we've just never had to do. And as a team, we're having to come together and solve problems that we literally have no idea how to solve. We're just making it up as we go. And with some educational, thought processes behind it. But I mean, we're kind of entering into all of these new territories, and that for me it's one of the most exciting times I've ever had here at Dish. And we felt that way between doing stuff with Sling and then now all these other things. So all of this stuff that we come together to do every single day is what keeps me motivated on a daily basis.
I'd say for me, we're super excited about the new campaign, the linkage to the brand, and the buzz it's creating in the industry. I'd say I get most excited about something Eric Carlson said to me, which was, well, how do you know 6 months from now you're going to be number one? And that kind of just lit a fire under me. Like, what do you mean? Of course we're going to be the number one live OTT service. But I think about that every day. Warren talks about we gotta run. They're chasing us, but I don't get bummed out or discouraged. That gets me pumped. Like, I want to be number one, and I want to be in that leadership position. We've been asked to do a lot more with less this year. So how do we think about profitability and driving towards profitability? And sometimes you look at the numbers and you're like, it's impossible. But it's not.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
And you run 2 offices down, and Dana gives you a pep
Yeah, and we high five each other. I think celebrating the wins is really important, and just reminding ourselves that, okay, we missed budget, but are we making progress year over year? And we're running like a mature business, and it's super exciting to see. And all of the competitors are outspending us, 5-6 times more. And I'm really proud of the work the team is able to do. It requires a lot of creativity and innovation and collaboration. So it's not just marketing, but it's working with finance and product and the client teams and legal, and it takes a village, and but it gets me super energized every day that what we've been able to accomplish in a short period of time as a 3-year-old business. I think it took Dish 7 years to become profitable, and Dana and I are on a path to get there in 4, and so that makes me really proud. But there's a lot of work to be done, and so as a manager, I can't do it all. I have to work to set the strategy and then really rely on the team. I'm not a micromanager. I'm here to help problem solve and remove obstacles, but I really believe in empowering and making sure people understand the strategy and how they can contribute, and that creates a lot of innovation.
Yeah, I would just build, I think, on both what all of these women have said. It's exciting to be here right now, and so my teams with who they support, I get to see how media sales is starting to monetize Sling, and that's exciting, and we get to help structure that and work with them as a partner so that it can grow infinitely, hopefully. We're also working a ton on Sling, and so the business side is fun, but I think another thing that inspires me is when you start to see some of the younger people on your team or your managers step up and really come into their own, and they've taken that feedback that you've given them, and they are really delivering, and you start to kind of see them develop new traits and just become better leaders themselves, and that's always exciting.
Any last tidbits? Good. Let's open it up to the room. Okay.
strategy.
I think it's about the opportunities that you're giving them, right? What I tell the, because you get the Glenn scores, and you get a lot of negativity around culture, and I say to people, like, we can't change the corporate policies, right? But what we can celebrate and influence is the work. And I think really, especially for the young people, first job, second job, the amount of responsibility that you're given at a young age, and that could be, we're sending people to New York to meet with SVPs of Viacom. Like, I didn't do that early in my career. Or we have someone raise their hand. I think I saw Ayush in the background. Ayush has been here a year? Yeah, less. And, he's always the one raising his hand. And so when we thought about one of our major initiatives around monetization, I went to Ayush and said, hey, do you want to lead that for me? Again, that's like, he's young in his career, and I'm asking him to drive more revenue, per subscriber for the business. So I try to get the team excited about the work because, as everybody have mentioned on the panel, we're like blazing the trail, right? We're creating something that didn't exist. We're disrupting an industry, and to be part of that, I think is really meaningful. So embrace the work, raise your hand, say I want to learn that area, or I want to take on more, because there's so much to do. And
yeah, and to add to that, I think I agree on all those comments. I think recognizing that people on your team, they're in different, everybody's in a different place, right? So one person is go, go, go and wants to drive. Another person has 3 little kids at home and needs to pick them up and needs to be out the door at 5. So being conscious of giving them the opportunities to grow within some of the parameters they've set for themselves, and respecting their parameters, but also giving them a little nudge, right? So making sure that they're growing, and that if he or she has to go pick up 3 little kids, you still want to give them as much opportunity as possible within those 8 hours that they're here. That they shouldn't lose out on opportunity because they have other things, they have another full life at home. So just making sure that everybody gets to grow, and also listening, and that's hard, like in a busy day, right? Finding time to listen to your team and giving them the opportunity to grow, but also listening to where they want to go. And that may be divergent of what you need on your team, but they're the heads that you have. So making sure that you're giving them what they need, and you kind of cut a deal. All right, we need this stuff done, but you want to do this, so how about you do some of this, and I'll give you the opportunity to do some of that. So recognizing that people are in different places in their life, and respecting those places they're in, but still giving them that nourishment, or trying to.
I think it's also important just to recognize everyone's contribution and make sure that they feel that their contribution is important. It could be smaller. I mean, not everybody gets to work on the sexy projects, but everyone's contribution is needed and necessary. And I think it's really important to make sure that they feel that you recognize that as their leader, and that you are thankful that they're there to do maybe those less sexy jobs, but recognize that and make sure that they feel that that's part of the goal, the main goal on the team, or just part of the team, and that they are helping.
I'm curious how many of you have been to base camp, and how it shaped your team's experience and your experience when you got there.
I've been.
What was the question? It was if they've been to base camp and how it's changed their experience and their team's experience. And specifically, Sarah, how it, I guess, was different from when you first started.
It's super interesting. I mean, because I did start in the call center. Obviously, it's a completely different world than what it was 19 years ago when I started, right? We didn't have cool tools like Community and all these things. We had books. Like, we literally did everything out of installation manuals. We did have something like Community. It was called the Bookshelf. It had one book and it walked you through signal loss. But I remember these things way too clearly. So it was totally different. I was really excited about going through base camp, because I wanted to see, one is within billing and credit, we set a lot of the rules that the call center then has to enforce. So I wanted to see, wow, how crazy are we? How difficult is this really for the CXO organization to have to work through some of these kind of strict guardrails that we've put in place? And then two, it was kind of to see, can I get right in there and be on the phones and do all of this stuff? Quite honestly, I loved the experience. I had such a great time. I see one of my trainers sitting over there, Claire. I loved being on the phones. I could never do it again. I know fellow two base campers too. I could never do it all the time, but it was one of the best experiences that I had outside of just getting to meet a whole bunch of great new people. I think from how it's shaped the team is, maybe everybody who's been through base camp is, especially if you weren't a new hire going through, I think what I hear a lot all the time is, when I was in base camp, we did it this way. And so I think we've continued that experience of, when we are making decisions about things, we're actually thinking about what's happening on the front line versus just being hyper focused on what we think is the right thing. I've talked about it a lot with my team. A huge portion of my team has been through base camp, even the more veteran folks. We've been sending, I think we're about 60% through at this point. I mean, so we're really pushing people to go through. And we talk about it all the time. I think there's almost every single day I'm in some capacity talking about base camp. I've only been out for, how long has it been? Like a month, 2 months? We went, January is when we finished up in January. So, I mean, it's a little bit more recent, but we certainly, I'm super glad that I went in. It was really hard to be away, but it was definitely worth the time, and it's influenced everything that we do now. And Shannon went through first, my boss, so we kind of had that introduction a year ago, and we've already been thinking that way, but I think me going through has helped, as well as most of my direct reports have been through at this point. So.
When I went through, I'll admit, it was hard. I was like one of the pilot classes, so it was 5 weeks, and it was longer. We had just longer times than all of them. In accounting, I know we don't set policies that directly affect anything in the call centers or IHS, but I took a huge respect back to my team for all the work that those guys do. And I learned a lot about our customers on the phone calls, taking the calls. I think that because we work with CSG a lot on our team and we rely on it a lot, it helped to see Dish Promo and actually work in it and see, oh, there's service codes right there. Oh, I know what those are. Things like that. I just brought back a huge healthy respect from base camp for the team. And I think that hopefully, when I was gone, 5 weeks was a long time to be away from the team. And at first, I started going home every night, and I would be on the laptop and try to do my work at night. And finally, I was like, you know what? I've got a great team. I don't need to do that. So I think hopefully they felt empowered when I left and just was like, you guys got this. So.
Yeah, I was actually in Kristin's pilot class, and had a very similar experience in that I was trying to do both jobs at the beginning, and it's not really feasible, I don't think, unless you're a superhero. But it gave my team a chance to, all right, she's not here, we can't rely on that. And they stepped up and did a wonderful job, and the person who at the time had been a senior financial analyst under me was then promoted to a manager shortly after I did it, because he did a nice job. And my biggest takeaway, similar to Sara, is that I think finance sometimes is involved also in setting rules, and we're like, well, you could charge this person $25 and this person could get charged $15, and then you see it in real life and you're like, wow, no wonder everyone's confused. Whereas, it makes perfect sense to us. Oh yeah, this is exactly how you'd optimize it. But I think that was, for me, a big takeaway, that like simplification is valuable.
And I will say, from my experience, that when I was on the phones to now, even though we have more tools, their jobs today are significantly harder than what mine was way back when, because we had 4 set-top boxes and we had 1 offer, and we had, you know what I mean? It was so different. And the number of things that people have to remember is, yeah, and a lot of it is your guys' fault. And I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah. And between billing and credit and finance and us, we do a bunch of crazy things, but they have tough jobs, and I think it is our job to try to simplify things as much as we can. Yeah.
We just have a few minutes left, so any closing thoughts that you might want to share with the group, and if not, we can do another question.
Let's do another question.
Okay, one more question. Shoot.
I'm curious, especially because you're all in such demanding positions, and you've talked about being in like the growing parts of the business, or just all the different stuff you do, the teams you manage. How do you have a work-life balance once you've gotten to this like really responsible position? stay energetic at home too.
I have friends who are not in a corporate world. I have a friend who's a teacher and a friend who's a nurse, which are very different than working in a corporate environment. And sometimes, I know we went to one of the Women's Network's presentations. I think it was the last one, and the lady mentioned having like a personal board of directors kind of thing. And I think I kind of rely on those two ladies to help me center and remember that you don't have to be there 12 or 14 hours a day. It is hard sometimes. We were talking about challenge. Some of the challenges are when to just know to turn off the computer and go home. But having somebody that's maybe not in a corporate role helps me.
I'm probably similar. I have most of my friends actually have like no jobs. I mean, they have jobs, but they're like really weird jobs, like real estate development or realtor. Like, so they kind of set their own schedule and they have more flexibility, things like that. I'm one of those people, just like her. One thing I try to do is limit myself when I can to no more than 10 hours in the office. That may mean last night I went home and worked for 5, right? Honestly, I mean, it is really challenging to maintain that. I think for me, I travel a lot for work. So like when I know I'm kind of at my max, like I have a trip coming up to Miami for a conference, so I'm going to go out a couple days early and just spend like 2 days by myself on the beach and like relax a little bit. Like those types of things are what I do. And then the other thing I have to do is like just to keep myself breathing some days, right? Is like I have a dog. Everyone knows me knows I have a dog and I love him more than anything. And so I have to play with him at least 3 hours every day. And it doesn't, if I'm up till 1 in the morning to do that, then I will. But like those types of things help me stay centered. And then I will, when I need to, if I have something outside of work that is really important, I will do it. And it's important for me to say, nope, here's where the line is. I have to just do this. The work will be there tomorrow. As long as it's not like a huge weird contract that like, I mean, I set priorities, but I do make sure if something's really important to me, I do it. And then it kind of works itself out. I think at the end of the day, like it just kind of happens naturally as long as you know where your boundaries are and when to walk away, which maybe we don't always, but yeah, that's how I do it.
I think in some ways, I mean, you need to set for yourself what are your priorities. We all work non-traditional hours. Like I think all of us would be available on the weekends if needed, or be in here, or looking at emails before we go to bed or when we wake up. I mean, for me, I get a lot of satisfaction from work. Like it's something that gives me a sense of purpose, I guess, and I really like it. But the trade-off for that is I've made myself available for a job that isn't always, it's not 8 to 5, but I'm happy with that. That doesn't mean, like Sarah's point, I do stuff on my own. I will say this weekend I'm not opening that computer, I'm not looking at my email, but it is a trade-off. It's not the tradition, you just go in, you go home, you don't think about it. And I think that's a real consideration if you want to progress and get to certain levels. That's sort of what's expected at a certain point.
Well, we are done with time, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
If you want
you.
to stick around for a few minutes.
Thanks for
feel free.
coming.